Sweet Science Brothers coming to you live from NYC. What up, YouTube boxing fans? It's your boy Yav. I know it's been a while. I've been making videos here and there. It's just I haven't been posting them up because honestly, like, I've been going real hard on some issues on some different YouTube boxing channels that I don't agree with. And, you know, after listening to the videos, I just feel like, you know what, nah, that's not even worth it. And then I just don't end up posting it. Anyway, it's good to be back. I wanted to talk about something important, something that's very relevant to the sport. First and foremost, I want to talk about Terence Crawford and the situation he finds himself right now in. So a lot of developments happened. First and foremost, you know, Ruslan Provodnikov left HBO for Showtime. So we're not going to get that fight. That's really unfortunate for all of us boxing fans because that would have been a hell of a fight. Ruslan Provodnikov is one of the most deadliest guys at 140, bar none. You know, other than his loss to Lucas Matisse, he's never really had a legitimate loss. Like, all of his losses were questionable. They could have been draws. They could have been victories on his part, whatever the case is. I mean, people felt like he beat Mauricio Herrera, or it should have been a draw. People felt like he defeated Timothy Bradley, or at least it should have been a draw. I personally felt like he beat Bradley, but I was okay with the draw in that fight. But from my knowledge, I remember he got a big knockdown and it wasn't counted. He was robbed of a knockdown. That would have been a 2-point round right there. I mean, you couldn't have not. I mean, at worst, it was a draw. And at best, he won by 2. It is what it is, though. Bradley has the heart of a lion, and it was one of the best fights of that year. And like I said, I would have been fine with a draw, but he definitely didn't lose that fight. And it is what it is. So the Algieri fight, me and my brother saw that live. The Sweet Science Brothers were on location for that one. We had excellent seats. And I'm going to tell you something. My brother, my nephew, and another friend of mine who was with us all felt like Ruslan Provodnikov won that fight, clear. I didn't agree with them on that one. I thought Algieri won, or it could have been a draw. But, you know, I have to say, every punch that Ruslan Provodnikov landed in that fight made, like, the whole stadium stake. The whole stadium shook from almost every blow that he landed on Chris Algieri. But the thing is that Chris got back up and he kept circling the ring, and he was throwing a lot of combinations, 3-piece combinations, 4-piece combinations, double jab right hand, left side step, check hooks, you know. And Algieri, his punches weren't powerful, so Ruslan Provodnikov's punches were a lot more effective, but I just felt like they were few and far between. And I felt like Algieri was out hustling him and outworking him and just doing enough to win the rounds, despite the fact that all the oohs and ahs from the crowd were coming in relation to Ruslan Provodnikov punches. His punches were generating the buzz, but at the same time, you know, Algieri was just throwing so many punches, moving left and right, and doing everything that he needed to do. So, you know, once again, it could have been a draw, but I thought Algieri won that fight. But everyone else disagrees with me, so I'll just say that the only clear loss Ruslan Provodnikov has was against Lucas Matisse. But that was a hell of a fight, and Lucas Matisse took a lot of damage, and he's postponed his fight. He pulled out of his fight due to the eye injury that you know, Ruslan Provodnikov did on him. I mean, Danny Garcia messed up his eye first, but Ruslan Provodnikov, like, really landed a lot of blows there, and you know, it is what it is. So I'm incredibly disappointed that the fight between him and Terence Crawford isn't happening. Everybody knows I'm a huge fan of Terence Crawford's, huge fan. And you know, there's a lot of YouTube channels out there like Travis Gotti Boxing and you know, and the Facts King and other people who've been criticizing Crawford, saying he's fighting smaller guys, doing this, that, and the third. Well, you know, I can agree that Hank Lundy and Thierry Jean were smaller, but at the same time, His first fight at 140 was against Tomas Delorme, who was ranked 10 in the division, and he knocked the guy out in a spectacular fashion. It was easy work for him. I didn't agree the Dierry-Jean fight. I don't know what was the decision making behind picking him. So I'm with all of them on that. There's criticism can be leveled there, but you know, I think it's unfair, all the criticism that Terence Crawford got for the Hank Lundy fight. I think it's very unfair because, you know, Terence Crawford was negotiating a fight with, he was in the running for the Manny Pacquiao fight. And, you know, people could say whatever they want to say, but we do know that, you know, Manny Pacquiao delayed his decision-making for that fight like 3 times. So, 2 or 3 times. I mean, he was seriously being considered, and for whatever reason, Pacquiao didn't choose him. I don't believe Freddie Roach's talk about, oh, we wanted Terence Crawford and all that. That's bullshit. I don't believe that for a second. I'm not saying Pacquiao ducked Terence Crawford by any means. I'm just saying that Pacquiao didn't pick him, and I think marketability did have to do with it. You know, they just haven't built Terence Crawford up, but at the same time, Manny Pacquiao did fight, you know, Chris Algieri on pay-per-view. So, you know, Top Rank and Bob Arum and them saying that HBO didn't want this fight because Terence Crawford's marketability wasn't there, I don't believe that shit for a second. Because of the fact that, you know, Pacquiao went on pay-per-view with Chris Algieri, who was a relative no one. The only person Algieri ever beat was Ruslan Provodnikov, so other than that, no one knew him, no one cared about him, he couldn't have carried a pay-per-view, and Terence Crawford's a bigger star than Algieri, in my opinion. I mean, you know, either way, they're both really, Chris Algieri and Terence Crawford aren't on that level for a pay-per-view, at least not yet. They would need like a big name. So anyway, I don't buy into the fact that the Pacquiao fight didn't happen due to marketability. I think that Top Rank's matchmakers felt like Terence Crawford may not have been ready, and they were the ones who pulled the plug on that fight. I don't think Manny Pacquiao or Terence Crawford's team had anything to do with that. But the point is that Terence Crawford was being considered, and for that reason, I mean, I know Terence Crawford's team threw all their weight behind the Pacquiao fight. That's the fight that they wanted to see. That was the fight that they wanted. So they weren't really looking at anyone else. And when Manny Pacquiao opted to fight Timothy Bradley, all right, at that point it was already like almost, it was damn near February, you know. So Top Rank had a plan B for Terence Crawford, and that plan B was to have him fight 3 or 4 times this year, and they said they were going to put him in New York, put him in California, Las Vegas, and Texas. Like, they wanted to take him around tour and just try to build his marketability, build his name, build his fan base, try to get him, you know, try to get him around the country, you know, and that was the plan for him. So it was kind of like a last-minute thing where, you know, Verdejo already had a fight scheduled for February 27th, so they just penciled Crawford in there, and, you know, everyone, you know, Travis Gotti and the Fax King and all these other guys, they're criticizing Terence Crawford, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, we know that Terence Crawford and Top Rank, they put an offer out there for Mauricio Herrera, who's a top 140-pound fighter. He defeated, you know, Danny Garcia and was robbed. He should have been the lineal champion anyway. So we know that Bob Arum and Terence Crawford gave him an offer. They offered him 300-something thousand, and he refused that offer, you know, saying it wasn't enough. And, you know, it is what it is. My point is that, yeah, Hank Lundy wasn't my pick, wasn't my first pick. A lot of us complained, you know. I wanted to see him fight someone better, but they did offer, you know, money to Mauricio Herrera. He turned the fight down. Lucas Matisse already had a fight scheduled for the Canelo and Khan undercard, which he just recently pulled out of due to his eye injury. And, you know, there just really wasn't a lot of options for Terence Crawford at the time. So, you know, they just kind of got Hank Lundy in there, and they figured, you know what, we're going to fight Terence Crawford 3 or 4 times this year, so it is what it is. But it's just been a lot of shit talk about TC, and I think it's unwarranted. You know, He's going to fight the top guys at 140. It's going to happen. And that's what this video is about, because Ruslan Provodnikov left HBO to go to Showtime. That's a huge blow. But it is what it is. What was really intriguing about the possibility of Terence Crawford versus Ruslan Provodnikov was that we know Terence Crawford is an elite fighter. I'm a huge fan of his, and I'm sure most of you are. We know he's an elite fighter from the eye test. But there are two questions that we have about Terence that aren't answered. Question number one, how is his chin going to hold up against a heavy punching, heavy hitting 140-pound fighter? We don't know yet. We really don't know. Tomas Delorme has a good hit, but he didn't touch TC, so we didn't get that answer from that fight. So that's the first question. How does Terence Crawford's chin hold up against that heavy hitting 140-pounder? And the second question is, we don't know what type of heart Terence Crawford has either. And we would have gotten both of those answers from a fight with Ruslan Provodnikov. It is what it is. He's going to Showtime. That fight is not going to happen. Now, shout out to Thunderdome Boxing Talk. Anthony made a video about it, and he was talking about how the time has come for, Viktor Postol and Terence Crawford to fight each other, because the fight isn't going to get much bigger, and there's just not a lot of talent left in the division on the HBO spectrum. And I have to completely agree with him on that. And I said in my previous videos that fight was going to happen, but it needed to be built up. But with Ruslan Provodnikov leaving the network, I think it's time. And there's an article in Boxing Scene that talks are in effect. Bob Arum has contacted Viktor Postol's team, and two pieces of information came out, and they've been back to back. The day before yesterday, there was an article on Boxing Scene saying that Terence Crawford's next fight is going to be on pay-per-view. So the moment I saw that, the first thing I thought was, oh, Bob Arum's he's gonna make the Viktor Postol fight. And then the very next day, there's an article on Boxing Scene where Viktor Postol's team says Bob Arum called him about the fight. So it's looking like Viktor Postol and Terence Crawford is going to happen this July on pay-per-view. And it's interesting, because there's another fight in the works that's also difficult to be made right now. For example, Vasyl Lomachenko. Bob Arum's trying to put together Lomachenko versus Walters, and Walters is asking for a lot of money. He wants $1 million, and they only offered him $450,000. So he wants $1 million, and HBO's budget for boxing has been cut this year. So I don't see how they can put that fight together. But a pay-per-view is the answer, because if they can put Terence Crawford versus Viktor Postol, and on the undercard put Vasyl Lomachenko versus Walters, that would be a hell of a pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? Put a stacked pay-per-view together. I think the pay-per-view and the gate will help pay for the purses, and I think it could do 250,000. 300,000 buys. If they stack the undercard and they put the fight in a big stadium that could sell out, I think that they can do this. I think they can pull this off. So I'm thinking this fight is going to happen in July. I can't see who else they could put Terence Crawford in a pay-per-view with. He's not ready for pay-per-view unless you put him in there with Viktor Postol, or if you can speak to Al Heyman about getting Adrian Broner in the mix, which I don't think is going to happen, because Adrian Broner is going to want at least $5 million. There's just it's not there yet. But I think if Bob can get Viktor Postol and Terence Crawford to unify on a big pay-per-view, and that pay-per-view does some decent numbers, they would be able to entice, the winner would be able to entice Adrian Broner. So I think it's a good move. And at the end of the day, it's a win-win for the boxing fans, and it's a win-win for HBO, and it's a win-win for Bob Arum. Because look, even if Terence Crawford loses to Viktor Postol, right, he can bounce back and get a rematch later on, you know. And if he beats Viktor Postol, it's really good for Top Rank, HBO, and everyone. But, you know, Viktor Postol winning is a good thing too. You know, he'll be the unified. He's already the man at 140. I'm a Terence Crawford fan, but Viktor Postol is the man at 140. He is the man. Not Terence Crawford, not Adrian Broner. Viktor Postol is the man. So, anyway, it's looking like we're going to get Terence Crawford versus Viktor Postol July 27th on pay-per-view. And I'm pretty sure that they're going to put Lomachenko versus Walters on the undercard. They have to. They got to do everything in their power to get that pay-per-view to sell. You know, and these guys want big purses, and I think the only way they could get the resources that they need for these fighters, you know, is just to do it on pay-per-view. So I think this is good news. If they can put both of those fights on a card, I'd be very happy about that. And it's looking like that's what they're going to do. So let me know what you guys think. This is your boy Av, Sweet Science Brothers, coming to you live. Also wanted to give you an update. I know that I haven't been putting out any videos lately, but I got the Andre Ward, Sullivan Barrera predictions ready. Me and my brother don't agree on the fight, so we're gonna do our prediction video together in one video. He's gonna do his prediction, and then right afterwards I'll do mine, because we don't agree on the fight, which is a beautiful thing. I've been waiting for that to happen. So we got our prediction videos coming up. Hopefully by Friday we're gonna get that up. And anyway, let me know what you guys think. Sweet Science Brothers coming to you live. Peace.